G'day, Andrew Mahara here. You know, I have courses coming, be announcing them soon, but what I want to say in this video, so people with BPD, especially untreated, have a lot of difficulties. It's relational impossibility, communication impossibility, responsibility taking impossibility when they're untreated. BPD is not a broken brain. BPD is not in the physical brain. BPD is not hardwired into the brain. The things that are seen on studies for people with BPD about, differences in brain structures or the way the brain operates, in part, can all be healed in psychodynamic therapy because of neuroplasticity as well as the emotional healing. It changes the neurobiology, if you will. Not to say that that's the issue of what BPD is. But more to the point, if you're with somebody with BPD or you have been for a while dating someone, relationship, any relationship type, and they're not in treatment, they have not had significant treatment, then if it's a chosen relationship, you really need to work on radically accepting it's not going to work out. There's nothing you can do. You can't rescue them, you can't change them, you can't fix them. But what you can do as a person with codependency is realize that you can't stop. You can't continue to run from your own pain and run from your own self. This is a codependent, externalizing out repetition compulsion in what is codependency. It's a dysfunctional, unhealthy relational pattern in its own right. So it's really important that you realize that, if you haven't already, and the gravity of that. And why the only way to recover that makes any sense from these relationships, and maybe a parent, with BPD or NPD as well, or emotionally unavailable parents, but you've been wounded in childhood, so you have codependency. And that's not like some light issue. And I'm not comparing it to BPD, but there are overlaps. Codependency overlaps BPD a little bit and around to dependent personality, but it's sort of in the middle there. But what's really important for you as a codependent to know today is introjection, which is the opposite of projection, and projection are not just a domain of people with borderline personality by any means. And people with significant to severe codependency, you have your own set of introjects layered within also injunctions that come from childhood that are likely not in your conscious mind right now. I'm out here to work with you and help you to heal and recover from the relationship and codependency and your childhood, because it's so vitally important. But if you resonate with me, I'm out here to help you, because there is no substitute. There is no other way to go about this process but therapy. And anyone who thinks there is, well, you can try whatever you like, but you're not going to get where you want to go. You're not going to get where you want to be. You're not going to find who you really are. And more to the point, you're not going to heal to the point where you can be an independent person capable of a very healthy relationship. So this idea about introjection, everybody has introjections. Introjections happen unconsciously. So an introjecting something is when you take on something, a belief, maybe you learn a new fact about something, and you take it in and it's relevant to you, or you're believing it, etc. And it might color or help your decisions. There are positive introjections and negative introjections. So to introject is to take in information, feelings, thoughts, concerns, worries, problems, and the people, if you have a codependency, of someone else, right? So you take that in, and it doesn't even happen in a conscious way. And then people with codependency wonder why they're with an untreated borderline. Why am I losing myself? Why do I feel like I'm borderline now? Why do I feel like, well, it's not some contagion. It's not some infection. There's no hyperbole and histrionics about it here. It's just the reality that you're interjecting from the environment, never mind what they're projecting onto you, that they're not even consciously aware of what they're projecting on you or why, because it's defense, maladaptive, and no excuse for poor behavior and worse, but they're projecting out onto you, and then you're interjecting what they're projecting onto you. It doesn't belong to you. So this is something else I'm out here to help clients understand, and I have a whole course coming on this that will really inform you. So people with codependency, everybody interjects. So, and if you're not consciously aware of that and you don't understand that about yourself, you can go read about it if you want, but it's not going to help you emotionally. So codependents interject things from the person with BPD specifically is what this video is about. And then you wonder why you're losing yourself more. And so that's interjection does take place unconsciously, like I said. And in early childhood, every single human being goes through interjection. And the difference is, or has that experience, it's normal and healthy in the beginning. And the difference between people with codependency and people with BPD is that some of those interjections will have been really negative. And they create negative core beliefs for people with codependency, and they do separate you somewhat from yourself. Wound your inner child, you're not a fully integrated person. But for people with BPD, it's a whole different experience. It's more primal adverse experience. And so when they interject what they interject, they can't get out of the good bad of the interject, because everybody in childhood, in the beginning of life, experiences good, bad, split of interject, of object other. But most people going through early childhood development without an emotional rest, but to some degree, some compromise, not in early childhood development necessarily, but after that for people who have codependency. So make no mistake about it, you're interjecting as well, and you do interject a lot from the borderline. And that's an unconscious process. They're not making you do that. They can't make you do that. And then you project, people with codependency project as well. Healthy people project, the only difference is we usually catch it. We're aware of it consciously. And then, so interjection is the opposite of projection. Simply, interjection means you're taking from out there or someone else into yourself, without realizing it, in an unconscious way, beliefs about yourself. You're feeling bad because they say you're bad. For example, this is really simplistically. So, interjection and projection, yes, it is very predominant in BPD to the extreme, and it's very impacting to people. But people with BPD are unconscious. They are not consciously aware of how they impact you. Doesn't excuse anything, but it should give you pause to think about, why do you think that you can try this again? Why are you still there? Why do you think that you can make the impossible possible? When you have your own issues in this unhealthy bond that you need to take care of for you. Because if you don't, make no mistake about it, not only are you psychologically and your mental health is being affected, and you're losing yourself more to the introject taking on of what the person with BPD puts out in the environment, whether they say it directly to you or not. That's happening, and you're responsible for that. They aren't. They're responsible for what they say, they're responsible for bad deeds they do, etc. But they're not responsible for what you're interjecting. That's your responsibility. And to become more consciously aware about that and what that means and how negative that's going to be, how that's going to intersect inside of you with the injunctions you learned in childhood. I have a course coming that will explain all of this. The injunctions that the negative ones, don't be yourself. Kind of the way codependency forms is like you get a message of like, do for me, in other words, the parent, and never mind you, you don't matter. Our feelings. So interjects by people with codependency rampant in childhood, just like people with borderline personality or people who today had healthier environments and parents to interject healthier, more positive interjects and injunctions from. So injunctions are usually highly negative. And yes, introjection is the opposite of projection. But people with codependency are not only introjecting the negativity and the blame, etc., and the guilt. Person with BPD externalizing out their primal wounded introjects. It's a vicious cycle, and it's interplay in the unhealthy bond. So it's not just that introjection, projection, or projective identification is only in a defense mechanism structure or reality of somebody with BPD at all. So think about that. I'd like to know what you think about that. Please leave a comment. Please like the video if it was informative or gave you some food for thought, or maybe resonated, or you're like, I don't know, I don't like hearing this, but thumbs up. Please support the channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Please engage with the channel, because you'll help me to help others if I'm helping you, if that makes any sense. So I'm out here to work with people that I resonate with one-on-one as well. And you can go to ajmahari.ca to check that out if you'd like. And in the meantime, I have much more coming on this. So people with codependency, this was just one area where I quickly went over, and I will have courses coming on this for you to really help you through it. And or you can work with me one-on-one, get through it in a whole different way, a very interactive and healing way. You need to take personal responsibility for you right now. Not what they've done to you. Take your own personal responsibility right now. And yes, you need to radically accept that an untreated borderline is an untreated borderline. And that makes a relationship impossible. And you having significant or severe codependency, not going to make it more possible for sure. It's going to add into the impossibility factor. And you need to take responsibility for you today, because you're the only one that you have agency over. And you're the only one that you can change. And you can't do it while you're trying to rescue, fix, and you're enabling and trying to be the hero in the codependent externalizing out patterns of the unhealthy relational pattern that codependency is. Why are you running so hard from you and from your pain by focusing on everything to do with BPD? So much so that the inaccurate sources out there of hyperbolic, histrionic, ridiculous information are garnering more attention. Yeah, the drama and the chaos of it all. It's not going to help anybody heal. So you need to take responsibility today for yourself if you haven't already, radically accepting that people with untreated BPD and people with codependency cannot make healthy relationships. And the sooner you know that, and the sooner you radically accept that, and then deal with the pain of that in therapy, I'm out here if I resonate with you, the more likely you are to not have to get into the situation of having a family in a very unhealthy dynamic that creates an environment for children where their introjects are going to be very negative. And then their projection is going to be strongly negative, and they're going to have codependency at best and or BPD or NPD at worst. Don't forget the overlaps of codependency. Take it seriously. You really need your own treatment, your own recovery, and you need to get out of the relationship. And if you can't do that right now, or you don't know what to do, as many people have commented on the channel, if I resonate with you, you can book sessions with me and we can talk about that. I meet clients wherever you're at. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be broken up yet. Maybe you want to try some other tack. But the point is, if they're untreated and you have codependency, that's a double whammy against, it's the aggregate of the impossibility of the communication and the relationships. And I'm not putting more of the responsibility for that on people with codependency. But let's not mince that anymore, right? Because you can't hold an untreated borderline accountable. You can try. They should be, yes, but you can't get it done. So is today going to be the day that you stop running from you? Is today going to be the day that you're going to face the reality that you need to radically accept that you're not going to get what you want, that what you had was more of an illusion than anything else, unfortunately, and that you need to do something about that now for your own mental and physical health. So let me know what you think in the comments. Where are you at with this? How did you hear what I said? And And, a lot of people have been in live streams of mine over the past, whatever, recently and otherwise. And, claiming to be so over the relationship, claiming to be so much better or recovered from codependency or really in the recovery process. But comments in live streams don't reflect that. So I'm here to keep it real, to help you heal. Straight up accurate information. Going to have courses coming, going to be really in depth. And they will be an adjunct, really, to working with me, not a replacement for therapy either. So anyway, what do you think? Would really appreciate comments, thumbs up, if this gave you food for thought or resonated or was helpful. Even if maybe it ticked you off a little bit. Hey, interact with the channel so that more people can find the channel. If, in fact, you feel like anything I've got to say here has ever helped you. So engage and break out. If this is a case for you, break out of your fawning codependency and find your voice. Share something. Ask a question. Support someone else. Anyway, I hope that was helpful or food for thought. Maybe it was really not what you want to hear, but guess what? If you're going to heal and recover, these relationships will not work out, and you're going to have to take this in, hear it, and radically accept it sooner or later. And the choice is yours. And for people with codependency, that choice alone for your responsibility taking, for you, who you have agency over and who you can change, and not focusing on the person with BPD, you can't just do it. It's not that easy. But the bottom line is you got to get into action for your own healing and taking care of yourself sooner rather than later, because every day that goes by, month or year that you don't do that, you are responsible for increasing your own suffering. You can't blame the borderline for everything. And whatever you can blame them for, more to the point, you need to work it through and let it go and not be staying, because blaming keeps codependents stuck in increasing their suffering as well.